Hey gang, it's your GM Drakeen, and today we're going to be talking about Rime of the Frostmaiden, specifically the Frost domain. The Frost domain does not exist in D&D, so this is going to be a homebrew exercise that you might be asking, so why do we need the Frost domain? Well, if you are running Rime of the Frostmaiden, which is an adventure that came out in 2020, so it's still fairly new. So it's like, okay, well, who are worshippers? What would be their domain for for her priests, for her clerics, for the shamans who follow her, that sort of thing. And that can lead you to, okay, well, what types of spells will those people cast? Since the Frost Maiden is primarily concerned about, turning the world to ice, here be Goblin Paradise, uh, movie reference. Anyway, you might want to develop something like the Frost Domain. So we're going to look into that. If you want to learn about deities, this is one of the greatest books you should own. It was came out in 1996, and it has more detail on the Forgotten Realms deities than I've seen. This reference is amazing. I haven't seen one as good as this that's been printed recently. Um, you're also going to probably using these, I mean, the creatures they give you in Frostmaiden are fine, but you might want to bring in a few new ones, right? And then Creature Codex, of course. Now, Tome of Beasts and Creature Codex are all from Kobold Press. I can't say enough good things about Kobold Press. I love their writing. I don't implement every single thing into my game from their source books because it's a different kind of campaign setting. So I kind of take it with a grain of salt, but they have some great stuff to pull from. And of course, Deep Magic is this huge tome that has all lists of new spells, new subclasses, new magical items. So this is basically, since I'm creating a new domain, I want to pull from a new world basically for Frostmaiden. I want to pull from these books. So you can create subclasses on D&D Beyond. So this is where I created this domain. And, this information is primarily pulled, I'm not going to read it all to you, of course, from Faith and Avatars. But some noticeable things here, it says the Frostmaiden can't cast fire spells, so it would make sense her priest may not be able to. She can only cast spells that have a negative effect on plants and animals, such as causing them to rot or be held, except in the case of animal summoning spells, which always bring like Arctic creatures to her aid. All cold spells she casts are at triple normal damage and -3 penalty to saving throws. Um, it also says Aurel indicates her favor by sending ice elementals, undead, winter wolves, frost giants, or other Arctic creatures. Most of the clergy is female. They're referred to as ice priestesses and ice priests and ice shamans. And midwinter night is the most holy time of the year for them. These spells, some of them you're going to be familiar with, of course. I'll get into the ones that you're probably not going to be familiar with, like Entomb and Ice, Deep Freeze. Um, the others you should all pretty much be familiar with. They're from standard, you know, 5th edition rule sets, pretty much. Since this has 7 elementals, I decided to go through and find, out of the books I showed you, these types of creatures. Now, obviously, not all these creatures are elemental, but you could just say for the purposes of summoning that they are elementals from, versions of whatever these creatures are from the elemental plane. So that's easy enough. At first level, you're naturally adapted to cold climates. You don't require cold gear for cold climates, and you have advantage on saving throws against exhaustion because of cold weather. It's okay. Um, you get all cold cantrips are considered clerics cantrips for you. So that's things like frostbite, hoarfrost, which I'm going to go over in a second, ray frost, And then, of course, you get access to first level cold spells, Armor of Agathis, Frost Fingers, Ice Knife, Icicle Daggers, and Snilax Snowball. You also get Nature and Survival, and you also get proficiency with Chainmail and all axes. So these things are directly from Faith and Avatars, and I'll get into them in a second. So at second level, you have something called Frost Kiss, which is one of the names of the Frostmaiden. And what this does, basically, you exhale a freezing gust of cold wind, which causes ice to form in up to 6 enemies, and it slows their movements in a 40-foot cube. And each target has to make a con save. And you might recognize this language down here. This is the slow spell. So what this is basically a Frostmaiden version of the slow spell. The range isn't as good. It's only up to 30-foot range. Slow is actually 120-foot range, and also slow is a wisdom saving throw, and this is a constitution saving throw. So I figured that would make more sense because it's a more physical sort of thing, that you're like breathing and should be short range. Next would be at sixth level, you gain resistance to cold damage. In addition, you also gain access to all cold spells, second level or higher. So you basically get access to things like Wall of Ice, Autoluke's Freezing Sphere, any cold singular cold spell. If it does multiple types, they don't get that. They only get the ones that are specific to cold. Eighth level, you get Frost Whip, which it is an advantage to effects that deal cold damage. In addition, you can add your Wisdom modifier to damage you deal with any cold spell you cast. So that's like a big thing. And this doesn't include cantrips. So you can add your Wisdom modifier, which is quite a bit of damage, but it does say Aural's cold spells do a lot of damage, so it would make sense that our followers have the same thing. And lastly, at 17th level, you gain immunity to cold, and your spells are much harder to resist, and you can deal more damage. You can reroll ones. So, more specifically, Hoarfrost. So let's start with the cantrip first. So Hoarfrost is from Deep Magic. This basically allows you to cast as a bonus action to enchant your item and make it magical, and also have it deal extra damage, which increases at a fifth level, as cantrips usually do. Pretty standard, right? It's pretty cool. Once you hit, it lasts for 1 minute, but once you hit, it dissipates, so you have to recast it. So that's that. Icicle Daggers, which was on the list. So this allows you to create basically daggers that you can use in melee combat. And it has restrictions. If you take fire damage, they don't last as long. You can create more daggers at higher levels. Pretty standard. Ice Axe. So this wasn't on the list, but this spell is the only people that get this spell are clerics of the Frostmaiden. So, and Ice Axe is something that's mentioned in Faith and Avatar. So this spell comes, and also the last two as well, come directly from Deep Magic. So all the last three spells and this one come from Deep Magic, and it's pretty standard. It does extra cold damage, still melts if it takes too much fire damage. You can create oversized axes, or I guess imagine great axes or whatever with this at higher levels. Moving on, Deep Freeze is actually a spell from Deep Magic called Iceburn. I renamed it. I do that a lot. I like to rebrand my spells with names that seem to make more sense to me. This actually doesn't allow a saving throw, and you have to make it. Gives you a disadvantage on dexterity checks and dexterity saving throws, and does a little bit of cold damage. Entomb in Ice is a second level spell. Does pretty much what you think it does. The person gets restrained, covered in ice. They take a little bit of damage, and at higher levels you can target one additional creature for it looks like every two levels. So this spell is from third-party content, Snilax Snowball, It is concentration. You get 3 orbs, and you can throw one of them as a bonus action on your turn up to 120 feet away. It deals 2d6 damage, and you get one additional orb every 2 levels. Lastly, I created an effect for my campaign, kind of specific to the Frostmaiden. So if you use cold spells or cold magic or any kind of cold in Frostmaiden, and it takes someone down to 0 hit points or lower, there's a chance that they turn to ice and shatter. So that chance is the damage you deal. So if you deal 20 points of damage to someone and it takes them down to 0, whoever does it rolls percentile dice. And if they get 20 or lower, they freeze and shatter. Otherwise, they just freeze and they can be thought out by their friends or whatever. But I thought that would be, you know, kind of a cool, fun, nice effect. And if you're interested in my Frostmaiden campaign, we play Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Eastern at Start Playing. And again, my name is Drakeen. Hope to see you at the gaming table and hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe. Take care.